Thank you for staying with the Monday Report. Down on Conversation is still happening even during the break. Let's see what you're saying online. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Monday Report. Why does politics always divide Kenyans, and what are the possible solutions going forward? That's what we're going to get into right now. Babu Michael says the toxic, divisive atmosphere of our politics is contributed to by our politicians who thrive on divisive politics. The electorates too spectate and promote the most abusive politicians by giving them elective positions. That is the truth. Okay? Washika Ken says Kenyans have idolized politicians so much. We adore them. You cannot arrest a mere MCA for spewing disparaging remarks in the public space. The media should heap too much pressure on such individuals for them to be brought to book. Okay? So there's the justice system issue. Baba Ivy says the more we discuss politics and leadership with personalities skewed in utterances like C.S. Kuria, divisive politics shall remain the order of the day. We need to Kenyanize our politics and shun recalcitrant role modeling. Where? Kizungu kubwa kubwa. Kaisuri says we should be worried of a generation that find it hard to wake up at 6 a.m. to go and vote, but would wake up at 2 a.m. to fill a stadium for inauguration. Okay? Kimutai Langat says political discourse focusing more on personalities, ethnicity, and short-term gains rather than substantive policy debates, making divisive rhetoric and identity politics to take center stage. There's a need to encourage issue-based politics for inclusive political landscape. All right. Turanta says Kenyan politics is divisive because it boils down to competition between individuals and factions and overruns reason. We then miss out on who has a solid plan for the country. We stop being objective. We must run issue-based politics. Okay? Okelo Mwalimu, in Kenya, words like elections, peace, and cohesion can't be used in one sentence. Politicians have taken full advantage of gullibility of the electorate by spewing hate messages usually disguised as free speech to deeply entrench hatred. They continue to even bribe the voters. Sheikh, so how do we achieve this issue-based politics that seems to keep coming up in every single tweet that we've read now?
Number one, I think Kenyans, it's the high time that Kenyans realize that at the end of the day, the powers that we give to the people, to the politicians, belongs to the people. Supremacy belongs to the people of Kenya. So we are the people who put them in power because we cannot go to parliament, all of us, the 50 million of us. So the earlier we realize that we are the ones who put them in power, the better. Again, they say where people eat fish, they say samaki huanza kuoza kichwani. You know, fish starts rotting from the head. Yeah. I think we need to begin with the leadership. I believe now we want to look for solutions. We need to begin with the leadership. As they seek elective positions, they should stop making those divisive utterances like my people, my region. If you elect so and so, this will not happen to this region. I think it has to begin from there. But at the end of the day, nobody elects themselves. There's no single person in this country is in office because they elected themselves. You only have one vote and maybe your wives and your family. That is not enough to take you into office. I think at the end of the day, it's the people of Kenya. We have to change this. And also, I think we need to realize that, Trevor, I don't have to be a sycophant to somebody that I hope maybe tomorrow he will be in office for me to get my rights. My rights are guaranteed by the Constitution of Kenya. The Bill of Rights guarantees me my rights. What happens, the government is just there to guarantee and respect that I get those rights. If it is about resources, the Constitution is very clear. So again, if we now shift away from looking at people or feeling that we are at the mercy of an individual or a person up there, and that our rights are guaranteed by the Constitution, and then it doesn't matter who I put in office. It doesn't matter where they come from. At the end of the day, somebody must belong to somewhere. And I keep on saying it's not an accident. It is God's plan that we are diverse, and we are supposed to embrace that diversity, and our rights are there. And we have a beautiful constitution that guarantees the rights of the people. So I think we need to begin by educating our people about the rights that they have, and the Waheshimiwas are Waheshimiwas because of the powers that we have donated to them.
Yeah, but there are also the critics who claim that the religious leaders need to be a bit more outspoken, and sometimes they've even failed Kenyans when it comes to clear civic education.
Okay, Trevor, that had to come, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has always been coming.
Anytime you have a
I want to
religious
agree
leader.
with you. You know, even the religious leaders,
Yeah.
remember they are Kenyans,
Yeah.
and each one of them comes with an ethnic baggage. So I think the religious leaders need to be above this divisive politics or ethnicity, because they are the custodians of the teachings of God. That God who created Adam. I don't know what tribe Adam was. I think he was just a human being. And this diversity is in God's plan, and it is not meant that one tribe should be superior to the other. I think religious leaders, I'm telling my colleagues who are watching, that we need to be above this. We need to shed that baggage, ethnic baggage, and we should be the voice of reason, because you speak for the voice of God.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Nerima, how do we achieve this issue-based politics? Because you see, there's a convergence on what the issues really are. It's the solutions that people disagree on, and who carries the best ideas for the solutions.
Right.
So how then do we create a convergence on this?
So before we even tackle the solutions, I want to say that our country has come a long way, and I'm proud of it. But there are also undertones that I spoke of previously, and I'll give 3 very short scenarios. In the last election, all the deputies were from one tribe. Okay. Also, with this administration, it took so long for the appointments to be mentioned because of the mapping of ethnicities. I was in Kitui County when a particular appointment was made, and we were in a youth meeting, and the youth were so happy that one of the PSs was from their county. So this is the realistic nature of the Kenyan people right now as we're talking about solutions. So let's talk about the solutions from that space. And I've not even mentioned that my husband vied on UDA as a Luo. I don't even want to get into the bashing that he received and we received as a family. So it's not to say that the tribalism is poof, is gone. It's there. There are undertones of it. It was just not as public as it was. It wasn't people at the podiums at rallies spewing it, but on my social media platforms, in my engagements personally, we were receiving it. So now that I've laid that realistic scenario, when we talk about the solutions, public shaming works in our culture. If someone says something ridiculous around you, why are you still sitting next to that person? If someone says something ridiculous in church on a podium, why are you still sitting there and laughing and clapping? What are you supporting? So if we want the public to do something about it, it starts from there. Your very own community, your family unit, we do it. If we're at dinner or somewhere at home, we're sharing a meal, and someone says, oh, that person from there, and you keep quiet, you're supporting it. Because silence is just as much as agreeing to it. So for me, that is the most basic of solutions. Because if we even look at the kitchen of political organs, majority one tribe. Let's not lie. Sometimes even decisions are made in one language. Let's not lie. Okay? So that's there. But it's the kitchen. You're not going to see it. They're not going to sit here and make those decisions in front of the public, in front of cameras. Sometimes you don't even know that kitchen, who is in that kitchen, until decisions just appear on the table. So it's for Kenyans to be authentic and honest about inclusion.
Yeah.
Do you really want inclusion? And if you do, then stop supporting people who are creating division.
Yeah, but there's also a very negative relationship between politics and money, especially for the young people. So you might say they're not supposed to cheer someone who says some ethnically ridiculous statements, but that's exactly what they were paid to do. We know there are people who are mobilized and told that when you come there, when you see me appear on a podium, the first thing you're supposed to do is cheer, and you've been paid for it.
You've been paid for it, but you can take the money and you don't have to cheer. You can take the money and you don't have to cheer. We have seen elections in Ghana where youth have taken money and not voted for the person who gave them the money to vote. This thing of the money that you're given, mtu amefanya uchawi hapa, that you feel I must vote for that person because I don't know what they did with this money before. I might go crazy.
That's a new one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand it because no one is standing behind you to see who you voted for.
Yeah.
No one is. So why do you feel like you must? I mean, honestly, in our own religions, whatever they are, we're not that honest with God. But why do we want to be so honest with politicians? I don't get it.
Interesting. So for you, the solution starts with the leaders or the people?
The people.
Yeah. So it all boils down to the people.
It boils down to the people because we're the ones who have given them that authority to lead us.
Yeah.
The same way we can choose that we don't want that authority, we don't want that leader anymore.
Because we've also seen young people vote in people who have questionable resources.
Exactly.
They don't know where the money is coming from, but they're
Exactly.
still uplifted in the society and people see them as the best. In fact, there was a research on more than 70% of the young people willing to, I know you don't like that research being quoted because you kept saying that the other 30% are not willing, but if 70% are willing to engage, to make money by hook or crook, what does that say about the society? And it comes back to the parents as well at the same time. What do they have as values for the young people?
Right.
What is passed down?
Yeah.
The parents don't question this issue, and is that where the failure really is? Parental guidance, religious leaders, NGOs.
Yeah, it's so multifaceted.
Yeah.
It's just the whole community setup. You know, what are we bringing up anymore? What do we see as the vision of the country anymore? Because a nation is built by its youth. So if we are not focusing on how we are going to build a nation and instill and support young people, really, technically, we don't care. Yani, we don't even care if these guys are unemployed. Like, who cares? They're just sitting there, just leave them. It's a concern.
Okay.
Because what country are we talking about living in the next 30 years?
Okay. Rosaline, where do we start with the solutions?
Trevor, let me just go back to what you just talked about, that the people make wrong choices over and over. Do they really have a choice? What are we presented with on the ballot box? Is there a choice? Because the stronger political parties, we saw it. They nominate directly. They don't even give you the choice to nominate who's going to be on the ballot paper. So that's where we start losing it as a country, because then we are given on a paper 4 choices, and it doesn't amount to much, I'm sorry to say. So at that point, we are already disenfranchised as a people. And you cannot blame us for now voting. Someone will be voted in, even if I desist from going in. In fact, failing to vote is voting. So I guess that's
So it's more like picking a lesser
yes, so
evil.
is it the chicken, is it the egg? I don't know which comes first, but I think we are disenfranchised right before the ballot by the political parties. And then that takes me then to the next point. We need to find a way to strengthen our political parties. We need to give teeth to the Political Parties Act, the Registrar of Political Parties, the Elections Act. A lot of these parties actually commit crimes which could actually see a lot of these candidates not reach the ballot box, but we are not working around the Elections Act. The duty bearers are not doing what they need to do. And that's somewhere we need to look into. The other issue is the Political Party Financing Act, which never sees the light of day. That puts us in a space of unfair competition. And those with more money manage to play around. Those with no money cannot. Some do. Toto did, a few others did. But it's never that easy to play the playing field if you're not part of this big boy club or the big girls club. And probably Toto also made it because where she was vying, she was in the right political party, she went in. So we've got to work around the Political Parties Financing Act. Ensure it sees the light of day. Let us advocate for that to come up. The other issue we have to deal with quite strongly is the issue of hate speech. There's a lot of disinformation, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of intentional fake news, there's a lot of body shaming of candidates, there's a lot of lies, there's a lot of all this going on in the space, some in the public arena, some in your private inboxes, some in social media. It's really sad. And this is something I think my colleague from NCIC, they've tried their best, but they need to up their game on that front and work with other duty bearers like ODPP and the DCI to see that a few more people are brought to book so that we stop this arena, because that's part of what muddies the water around elections. And it sometimes builds up into what you're calling the divide, the political divide, because when you insult a whole ethnic group and balkanize them to be a certain thing, it is very unfortunate. And those are the narratives that NCIC needs to be dealing with and work around. The other thing is, I think we need to follow, we need to do a lot more advocacy, my commission as well and many others, on respect for human rights. So that we respect human rights, we be a nation that respects the other person. If you respect your neighbor's rights, your neighbor will respect your rights. Why do you want to come and destroy my property? Why do you want to come and maim or injure me? I mean, why? Why do you want to do all these things that violate my space and my rights? I think once we have more conversation around respect for rule of law, respect for the rights of others, then the rights can kind of be reciprocated. Because they say if your brother's rights are taken away and you watch, next it will be you they are coming from.
Yeah.
So we need to jealously guard the space of human rights, the space of rule of law in all that we do. Because I think what's lacking in our election process is respect for the rule of law.
Yeah, but
we have enough legislation.
But is that an institutional failure, or is the people themselves? Because some people say even that rule of law doesn't apply uniformly to everyone. I mean, the politician will come here, say certain things that you, if you said them, you face the full force of the law right there and then, but the politician got away with it.
And that's where I blame, that's why I'm saying, if we were a nation that respected the rule of law, if we were a nation that used the law as we have it, because I told you, we have the Political Parties Act, we have the Elections Act. A lot of the things we are seeing amount to crimes and actually require that the person be barred from vying.
Yeah.
But no one implements it because of the lack of will.
Okay.
I think that's also one of the things that happened. There's the lack of will. Probably there's also fear in the duty bearer that if I do X, this will happen. And we've also heard from a few duty bearers that I was told to go this way. I was told to do this. I was told to arrest Trevor and charge him. We've had that. So there is also fear in some of the duty bearers in acting. And these are some of the conversations we need to boldly have as Kenyans and with ourselves. So that where is our humanity? Where is our respect for the Constitution? We all took oaths of office. Why don't we abide by them?
Yeah.
Religious leaders, they actually swear to abide by their books, their holy books. But when we see some of the things that religious leaders do out there, sorry, Sheikh, this is not
Yeah.
No,
A spade.
When we see some of the conduct of some of the religious leaders, it actually shocks you and makes you wonder whether this is faith or this is greed. Because sometimes you see even the people they allow on the altar to address the people. It is shocking because the utterances there will be nothing that is, you know, I say all religions speak the gospel of love. Yeah. There's no religion that speaks violence or hate. So when you find that a pastor gives a person his altar to insult or balkanize a group of people or kind of exclude a group of people and speak against a group of people, then that's not religion anymore. So I think we are failing at several levels in our community and structure, but speaking from a human rights perspective, I'll keep it to the law, let duty bearers do what they do. I think we have enough law.
Okay. Major?
Thank you.
Thank you, and I will just reiterate the words of my colleague in the field of human rights. You see, one of the environments whereby human rights violations drive in is during the political violence. And the reason why we should focus so much on the people is because this violence does not select. When there is that indiscriminate shooting because of a riot, that bullet will fall on you. And maybe you are thinking that this should happen because maybe my government is protecting their space. And I think one of the times that we normally record a lot of deaths, a lot of human rights violation is actually when there is political violence. But the people have the whole sovereign power. We can determine our destiny. Because now, you might say that let this community be oppressed, let them not have enough resources, but what do you think the system will do after they are done with them? Someone says that when they came for the Jews, I said, I'm not a Jew. When they came for the gender, I said, but now when they came for you, there was no one to speak for you. So the focus should be on the people of Kenya. Let us protect our rights. These rights cannot be taken away by anybody, not even the leader, because who is that leader? Is this a person that is that has some donated power? You've donated that power to that person. So why is it that we get to a point that actually, because what is happening now, and I think that's why the issue of advocacy and sensitization and awareness among the population is very important. Kenyans sometimes fail to understand who we are, the power we have. You know, that person, we're having a government right now. We have leaders in place because you woke up at whatever time you woke. Some slept at the station, I don't know. So they are there because of what you did. It's because of your action. If you never did that, then we could not be talking about those positions and people in government. So why do you give some? It's like now you're having a farm and then there is a gardener. Then the gardener will just wake up and tell you, now I need to slash all the trees, I need to cut this, and you are just quiet. Who is the boss here? Kenyans need to understand that we are the bosses. We are the people to determine what happens. But also, I think we need to build a culture of love and caring and brotherhood. You see, right now, you only last to see your politician during the times for campaigns. We saw them even building some houses, washing the utensils. But what will happen after that? You will never see them again. You can't even be able to, when you try to even to access where they stay, you will be flushed away. You will be chased like a dog. But remember the other time what was happening? They were chasing, they're going after you. So the people need to understand that we are the people of this republic, despite the region you are coming from, despite your religious affiliation. You see, because you, just like the Sheikh was saying, I don't choose to be born in a certain region. But again, when we focus on what, I think we are focusing so much on what divides us and what unites us. We have a beautiful country because everyone is having a big contribution in this community. There is an activity, an economic activity a certain community is doing, another cannot be able to do. So that's why we are simply paying each other. You're having meat on the table every day because maybe someone is rearing their cows and their sheep. You're having minji on the table. So I think Kenyans need to come to the realization that God has put us in this society so that we complement each other. But again, we really need to focus on our rights. We need to protect our space. We need to speak out against any kind of torture, any kind of violation, be it election related, be it social economic. We need to speak for one another because we are the people that are there. You can only go to your brother. No matter, sometimes you realize that even in the spaces you're working, you might even be the only person from that community. But you consult. I mean, you've run out of airtime, you borrow a phone from your brother to call. I know. So you don't understand what really happens that we really get to forget. The issue is we just get to a point whereby we drop the ball and then we allow some people, I don't know whether there is some magic that happens in Kenya, because when you travel across this country, in any region, if you go to any region right now, because there is no election, there is no campaigning, nobody will care where you're coming from, who are you and what you're doing. But wait until the election comes. So I think people we're just giving away our power, and so we need to take back our power. The other thing is that there must always be checks and balances in the society. And we in the human rights sector really believe that these politicians, do they really have absolute power like we were saying? Do they have really the freedom just to speak and to do things? These institutions, if we talk about the security sector, if we talk about the health sector, every officer that is holding any public office, he is holding that on behalf of the Kenyans. So that's why the Kenyans should always apply checks and balances. You should know who are the institutions that are responsible for peace building, who are the institutions that are responsible for ensuring that human rights space is being protected, be it there is an election or there's no. So, and then when we realize we need to keep them on checks, that we can question them. I know the issue of maybe financing, we can talk of maybe this but again, I don't think it's also just about finance. It takes about that courage. He just said that sometimes we need to, these officers that are working there, you don't need to fear to make a decision, because someone said when we lose our fear, they will lose their power. So I think we need just to do the right thing. We need to let everybody respect the law. If you are a citizen, respect the right of the other. If you are a state officer, do the right thing. Yeah, I think we do not have, if we talk about chapter 6 of the Constitution, no politician has a right just to speak recklessly.
Yeah.
But also, and this is why the Kenyan now should really participate in their issue. I think the issue of participation, the issue of people being active, I think Kenyans, we are a bit careless. Sometimes we don't care. I mean, someone talks and nobody even cares as someone said something that can threaten your peace. You may be taking your products from one region to another. Your business just has stopped suddenly because someone has said something. Or maybe your child is going to lose a life. Maybe they are in school or they are on their way and then something happened because someone has just uttered some words. And we just forget so quickly. That person will come, will roam in the village and they're there. So the institutions that are responsible for protecting human rights and also ensuring that we have a peaceful and cohesive society should up their game, like what my sister just said.
Yeah.
And I'm very sorry for Commissioner. I know to take more of this, just like the religious leader. Because when we were doing, because IMLU, we did around 8 regional forums, just engaging the youth, the women, and we really don't just need to blame the religious leaders every other time. Because like my sister said here, there is no religion that speaks about war. Yeah, most religions, they speak about peace and love, brotherhood. But you see also everything that is original must have a counterfeit. I think right now there are some social accounts that purport to be citizens, but they are not. So we really need to focus on these structures because in every society, in every community, there are these structures. So we need to capacity build these structures. We need to give them space to talk out their issues because they know the triggers of conflict. They can readily go ahead and give you the solutions. And then also now you give them platform now to continue carrying out these activities now targeting the other populations because like the chair just said here, it's not every Kenyan that is not caring about peace. It's not every Kenyan that is tribalistic. We have people that love peace in this country. We have youth that have organized themselves. We have women. We have religious, actually, and they're the majority. Actually, these few people that are really deserving, they're very few. So we really need to focus on the people that love peace. We need to give them more platforms. But again, also now the people now need to take power. They need now to start exercising because if we talk about an MP, I mean, do we know that as Kenyans that you can recall any leader?
After 2.5 years.
They make it so difficult, though.
It's so hard.
But I think there is I think we are not so much, Kenyans are the ones that are not really maximizing that space. It is possible.
It's just a 1-year window.
Exactly.
2.5 years to by then we are tired.
So we need to really know. I think that's why we are saying that sometimes the Kenyans, I think we are the ones that are dropping the ball. The Constitution is very clear. There's no means what in the Constitution about the power of the people. So we really need to focus on that. And also the people, we need to know that we are human beings. Be caring, care about your brother, care about your sister.
All right, let me bring in Danvas on this. Magori, for the final word on this conversation that we're having. What are the solutions going forward? And you've also been challenged to up your game a bit.
Absolutely. I take the challenge, we take the challenge, and we already knew the challenge. And because we need to up our game, and we're upping our game, we have what we call a framework of implementation on post-election programming. And what we are doing is we're building on the success we had during our election period. It was the most peaceful election that we know in the history of our country, and building on that success we had. First of all, just to thank all state and non-state actors, everybody involved in making sure we had a peaceful election, and we learned lessons as a commission, and we came up as a strategy. And here's how we plan to up our game, has been challenged here. Number one, we have a six-point strategy on what we need to do. I don't have time to do everything here, but I just mentioned the top 3 that are important as far as this conversation is concerned today. Top of the line, which I've mentioned earlier, but I'll go to is knowledge and documentation. Because knowledge is power, and then we need to document the gains and because if it's not documented, it's not done, and empower the people to understand what is true, what is not true. The biggest challenge, of course, we will face and we are facing and realize during election is misinformation, disinformation, as my colleague, Madam Chair, has said. To that end, when you empower people, they're able to build resilience against disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda. So it's something we need to do. Secondly, Trevor, we need to have, and I want to call all the leaders of our country to be bold to implement the TJRC report. The TJRC report documented the history, the historical injustice that this country has faced leading up to the 07-08 violence, forced disappearances, killings, gross human rights violations, land issues, the Dungu report. And as a country, Trevor, we've never had a true healing and reconciliation. We've never had intra and inter-community dialogues that will force communities to come together and acknowledge past injustices. Because unless we have true healing and reconciliation, we'll never achieve true justice. So we need to have that component, healing and reconciliation. We need to be bold. I'll invite my dear colleague, Madam Chair, and religious leaders and everybody here in this forum and across the country to be bold enough so as a country we can implement the TJRC report, true healing and reconciliation. We're talking about acknowledging past mistakes and injustices, public apologies, psychosocial support for communities that were really injured, individuals. We have traumatized. We have traumatized generation, a generation that is traumatized in conflict, traumatized by the government itself and how we do certain things in part of our country. I'm glad the former president one time acknowledged and apologized for the Wagala massacre, but we've had so many injustices that committed both by communities and both by government, which we need to acknowledge. Thirdly, we also need to address the issues of structural inequalities to end conflict. No matter what security apparatus we deploy in our country, unless we address structural inequalities, these are the drivers of conflict. We'll never achieve peace and cohesion in this part of our country. And we've divided our country into three clusters: the Maya cluster, the Marsabit cluster, and the Kerio Valley cluster to address structural issues. This coming week, we're meeting the Deputy President because he's a point person as far as the government is concerned to independent offices and commissions, and to present our recommendations and reports, especially on this specific hot issue, because the President has made it clear that he wants to end banditry in Kenya. And you don't do that unless you address structural issues. I mean, we can send the entire KDF and police there, it will never change anything. And I'm glad the CS Interior is genuinely committed to addressing this issue, and we've given him a report, and we're working closely with the Ministry of Interior, especially in conflict-specific areas. Last but not least is strengthening institutions.
Okay.
We had a peaceful election because of institutions that acted independently, so we need to strengthen institutions, continue to strengthen them so that we can safeguard democracy. It is institutions that safeguard our democracy. When you do those things, I believe as a country we can move forward in a peaceful way, in a democratic way.
All right. We've run out of time here, but let me give the people the final word here and raise some of the issues they're raising on social media. Trevor Mbiji at Citizen TV Kenya use the hashtag Monday Report. Let's read a few of them. And then I'll thank my guest for making time this evening. Ochieng Below, as it's always said, peace begins with you as an individual. Non-violence begins by learning how to be less violent and more compassionate with ourselves. We learn by building the courage to speak and act with respect, honor, and reverence for our own beings, okay? See what else you're saying here online. Easton Quach says, Nerima Wako is right. The moment a politician will talk nonsense like in church and people don't clap but show disgust, the politicians will then learn that citizens cannot be disregarded, okay? See what else you're saying as we wind up. Diof Olo says, it's unfortunate that politics divide Kenyans. This mostly is geared with the fact that most of our politicians use money as a weapon of gaining their gusto. In return, it creates a die-hard scenario for the beneficiaries. Politics has changed to investment, all right? And we have Honorable Ruth Bukachi here says, Trevor, poverty is the biggest problem and money is the biggest drive in our politics. Biggest problem is the money and moral standing. Our young people believe big money comes through corruption. So we have a real torn moral fabric, all right? Thank you so much for making time this evening. We've run out of time now. I'm Machirong, Technical Lead, Networks and Community Engagement, IMLU. Thank you very much for making time. Dr. Roslino Dede, Chairperson, KNCHR. Asante sana for making time. And we also have Nerima Wako, Executive Director, Siasa Place. Thank you very much for making time. And Sheikh Ibrahim Lithome from SUPKEM. Asante sana. And Danvas Makori, NCIC Commissioner, for making time for us all the way from Seattle in Washington. Asante sana. And most important, thank you all for the feedback you've sent through again. You have to be your brother's keeper. At the end of the day, we are all we have. All right? Bye for now. My name is Trevor Mbiji. On behalf of everybody else who made this possible, we say good night and God bless.